And welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage. And thank you for joining us today on the podcast, Leveraging Thought Leadership. Today, my guest is David Mammano. David is a serial entrepreneur. He is a TEDx speaker. He's an adjunct professor. He's a graduate of the MIT Entrepreneurial Masters Program, an author, a speaker, and obviously deeply involved in the content and thought leadership world. So welcome aboard, David. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Peter. I really appreciate it.
Great. So as you know, our focus here is really on the business side of thought leadership. And you've done many different things in terms of the monetization and the attempt to monetization content in different ways. Can you give me just sort of an overview on what you're seeing now and maybe some new and interesting things that you're doing today?
Sure. Well, I've been a content guy since I started my company. My company has been through many iterations since 1995 when I first launched, but I'm proud to say I still have the same employee identification number. So, but a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, and continue to get them. But that's part of the journey. So, my first venture was a printed magazine called Next Step Magazine. It was for high school students, and we helped them with college, career, and life planning. And I always hung my hat on striving to have the best content in the business. There was, 4 other magazines in the space at the time. I personally thought they were rags, a lot of ads, a lot of fluffy editorial.
Yep.
And I thought, here is my chance to have a unique advantage and just really produce award-winning content. And sure enough, we did. We won a lot of awards. We were in, DC beating, the Wall Street Journal, high school edition and Scholastic.
Yep.
And so it was great. So I've always been a content guy. And then before you know it, we had thousands of articles on our website. So we were coming up pretty high in Google without even spending any money. And that was back in the, early to mid 2000s. So I'd like to say we were ahead of the curve, but it just kind of happened,
But it sounds like the key differentiator there wasn't your technology, wasn't your budget, wasn't the snappy, website domain, but quality content.
Exactly. It was the compound effect of quality content just building and building and building on top of each other. And it was a great business up until about 2014 when I finally retired the print. The digital revolution finally kicked my butt and said teens and print are no longer cutting edge technology. And as many newspapers and magazines have shown, it's that model it's just never the same when you transfer it online. So we really transformed the business into more of a online college planning curriculum. We even changed the name of the company to nextstepcollegeprep.com. And we licensed that. We licensed the curriculum to a lot of underserved organizations. So charter schools, boys and girls clubs, YMCAs, independent counselors. So
let me pause you there. So business model evolution is print, which is advertising supported as well as potentially subscription based, right?
Correct.
Then that moves digital. The money in digital is not good, so you start to move to a licensing model. So I just want to, because you're going pretty quickly because you're an entrepreneur. But okay, so we've got subscription based, advertising supported, now licensing. Tell me about what it takes to be successful in the licensing business.
So what you have to do is really, produce content, and not just articles, obviously videos, resources. In my case, it was a workbook, worksheets, handouts because it was a curriculum. So just kind of I'll say a multimedia onslaught of great content resources that it would be crazy for an organization or a person to do on their own if it already existed. So what we do is we just say, hey, we want to make your life easy. We have something that you can hit the ground running with. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And we make it really affordable so that you can do your job quickly and really well.
Got it. And it's specialized and niche, right? So tell me about so it's cheaper. So just from a economic perspective, cheaper to lease it from you, license it from you than to build it on my own. But tell me about the level of specificity of the market you're serving. This isn't some generic content that's going to knock People magazine off the shelf or something.
Yeah, it's actually super niche. I mean, it's not only college planning, but it's college planning for underserved students. So like I said, boys and girls clubs, charter schools, YMCAs. And the reason that model happened, was we were trying to go to all high schools, but a lot of will say the suburban schools that have a lot more resources and kids going to college naturally, they would give us the Heisman. We're like, nah, we're all set. We got it. Got our own program. We're good. But meanwhile, I'd call a charter school and they'd be like, oh my God, oh, this is perfect. We need this. And like open arms hugging us. I'm like, all right, let me just go with this path.
Okay, so another thing I heard, so I'm sort of putting on my decoder ring here, is listen to the market. So you tried two markets. One gave you the Heisman. I'm assuming you meant the arm block, not the trophy, right?
Yeah, the arm block. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
The arm block.
So you got either arm blocked or welcomed with opened arms. And when a part of the market welcomes you with open arms, that's where you need to go, assuming that the money makes sense. Okay, so that's the licensing side. That's awesome. Keep going.
Yeah, and I want to, for your listeners, I want to kind of expand on something you just said. Just go with where the market is telling you to go. And so a friend of mine, Dr. Nito Quibine, is the president of High Point University.
Yep.
And he took over when it was like going out of business. They called it like the sheep farm college. I mean, it was like deserted. And he took it over and he literally raised like $700 million, bought all this land, quadrupled the size of the campus, right? And so the maintenance people came to him, construction people came to him and said, hey, where are we going to put the walkways, the paths, And he goes, for the first year, nowhere. Let's just see naturally where the students walk, because we can see their path after a while. And that's where we'll put the walkways. I think it's a very good business lesson, too. You can try to tell people what they want. But when you just kind of like listen to them and see where it goes, that's your business model.
So I want to confirm what you said 1,000%. Oftentimes, particularly in the content space, right? So we are not in a business that forces you to do a lot of product development prior to shipment. And I think the mistake that I've seen a lot of authors and thought leaders and speakers make, and when I say mistake, meaning wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars, is coming up with the quote, brilliant idea in isolation in the laboratory or surrounded by their peers and friends and whatnot, and then go immediately into development mode, very linear, then go into marketing and sales mode. And then you find out the depressing reality when you're in marketing and sales mode after something is built that, if it came in pink, if, you get a lot of these ifs or not for me, but that you could have if you changed your process and said, wait a minute, let me talk to the market before I make those huge investments. So I have to put some thinking in and say, I'm thinking of developing an assessment tool that assesses the following, or building a video-based training system that trains the following people to do the following things. Have those conversations. The market will tell you what it wants, and it's got to vote with their dollars, not with what you think. It doesn't matter what you think. It matters what the market thinks. So I concur.
Yeah, and it's not always research. I've done research before. People tell me what I want to hear, and then I launch it, and it fails. It's almost like you got to follow their dollars. Are they willing to spend money on it? Are they willing to actually partake in the business model?
Well, and that's a great point, because there's a difference between research people telling you, yeah, I would love to buy a flying car, and then the follow-up question will be, great, we'll have those ready in 2 years. Can I take a deposit? Right? And I think that's really the differentiator here. If you look, for example, at what Tesla has done, lots of people said, yeah, that's really cool. 400,000 people have put $1,000 up to buy a Model 3. That's pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah. So they know it's going to work.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Okay. So we've got the licensing. What's keep going in terms of because you're touching on so many different.
Yeah. Well, I'll kind of throw a monkey wrench in the whole journey. So that business now, it became much smaller. It became 3 people instead of 20. And once we built it, there wasn't much to do anymore. We certainly update it, but then just sell it. And so that's kind of its own flywheel turning. But then I was left with a lot of time. And about 2 years ago, someone called me, a 25-year-old kid, and he asked me to coach him to start a business. I said, sure, So he said I was really good at it, and I ended up creating an online curriculum to start and grow a business. So all of a sudden now, instead of creating content for teenagers, I'm creating content for entrepreneurs, and I'm loving it, because I never was a high school guidance counselor, right? But I have been an entrepreneur. So now I'm actually writing content with what's in my blood. And and I'm loving it. So I end up having events for entrepreneurs. I end up creating 2 websites for entrepreneurs. One just my own website, and then another one for a company now called Avanti Entrepreneur Network.
Mm-hmm.
And Avanti means next step in Italian, so it's kind of
Yep.
like a nice synergy. And so, coaching, online course, events, a lot of content and coaching services for entrepreneurs. And once again, kind of like trusting the path, letting go a little bit and see where it goes. We were talking a little bit before about
Mm-hmm.
what has really bubbled up for me with my new company called Avanti. In the fall, so maybe about 6-7 months ago now, I was talking to a young business owner, and she just bought the business from her father,
Mm-hmm.
and she had a ton of questions for me. She was having, those new business owner anxiety attacks, and she asked me about sales and marketing, et cetera. And I was able to help her. And at the end, she was like, "Oh my God, David, you're so smart." I'm like, "You're sweet, but I'm not. I've just made that many mistakes where now I can help you." And then she said, "I wish there was a group where I could talk to guys like you, gals like you every month." And I told her, I go, "Well, there's Vistage, there's EO, there's YPO. There are a lot of groups." And she
Sure.
said that she couldn't afford those. And I was like, good point. There's probably a lot of younger, or I'll say beginning middle stage entrepreneurs. I don't care what age you are, they can't afford Vistage. I mean, here in Rochester, Vistage is 15 grand a year. I'm sure in New York
Yeah.
it's more.
Yep. Yep.
And so I said, you know what, Sarah, I'm going to go online on my social network, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I'm just going to ask my network if they are interested in learning more about kind of the Vistage light. And so 94 people commented that they thought it was a great idea. And so coffee meetings and real
Mm-hmm.
meetings the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, signed up 45 people, $500 a year, and everything is free. I didn't spend any money on marketing the group. I got a company that has a lot of conference rooms to
Mm-hmm.
donate space. So there's no cost for me. I have 45 people that we meet monthly, and it's really kind of a confidential mastermind think tank peer group is probably the best way to describe it.
Well, it's also a paid R&D lab for you because I mean, there's not a ton of money in it for you, 45 people at $500, but it's better that the money is coming towards you during this sort of initial R&D phase as opposed to you investing and failing, right? So you're onto something. If you got 45 people, they can't all be wrong, throwing up some money saying that sounds like an interesting idea, tell me more. And not only are they giving their money, which is important, but I find today time is almost as, if not more important for some subset of the market than money, right? So I can
Absolutely.
afford $500, but spending 2 hours a month with you, that's a challenge, right?
Right.
I've got to really say, what is the value I'm going to extract from that 2 hours? Because I've got lots of things to do and I'm busy and all these other sort of things. So I love that you got real time market validation, rapid prototyping, and going after a niche in the market. And now, how long has this been going on? A couple of months? These groups?
Well, no, it's been. I think we're about to have our 8th meeting now.
Okay, so almost a year or so. So, what, if anything, has bubbled up in terms of future product offering, product roadmap based on the needs of the market?
So great question. So a couple things bubbled up, and once again, I didn't even predict this. We were laughing before we started recording that I like to think, oh, I have all these great ideas, and at the end, a lot of them fail. This one I didn't even plan; it just happened. So I got 45 people. Actually, I have almost 50 people now,
Mm-hmm.
and so I actually, because I'm a coach, some people have, I'll say, upgraded and purchased my coaching. Right, so I got some
Okay.
clients out of it. So now I'm like, oh, this is a model. This is a model for coaches or any business person that wants to surround themselves with other business owners because maybe they can't have an upsell product for them. It could be a CPA, financial
Sure.
advisor, a lot
Sure.
of different things. So now what I'm doing is I'm packaging it up to license it so people can start chapters in different communities. So there could be, if there's a Dave Mammano in Buffalo and Cleveland and Dubai,
Yep.
what they could do is get an Avanti chapter, and they could be the chapter chair. And I have this whole suite of services to help them run their chapter, get them leads, coach them, materials, curriculum, etc., content, everything to help. And then there's powers and numbers, right?
Yeah. Let me just pause you for a second. So there's two things happening simultaneously there. One, people are asking for more of you. Now that's a limited resource. There's only so much of you, et cetera. But geez, if 10-20% of the group of 45 or 50 want some coaching and you have the bandwidth and that makes sense for you, great. But simultaneously, the scalable side of this is the franchise is a legal term, but basically developing the templates and the framework by which others can replicate and form some sort of a business opportunity relationship with you around that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was a nice little surprise. I didn't even mean to do it. And I don't think anybody should. I don't think you should start a group to like overtly say, hey, can you join my peer group? Because I want to sell you my coaching services. It's kind of, I'll say the Trojan horse, right? So you're
Sure.
50 people in your group. They're bound to. Some of them are going to say, oh, Dave, oh, John, oh, Maria, you're a coach. I need coaching services. So I think it's a nice way, a nice alternative than cold calling or just doing the traditional networking. Is being a resource for people, and as you know, part of being a great resource to people is providing them great content to help them learn and grow.
So let me go back a couple of steps, because I made a note and I didn't ask you the question. So when this idea came into your head, you threw this out to your network online, right? You said you put it out there and LinkedIn and Facebook and whatever, and immediately a whole bunch of people said, "Yeah, I'm in," right? And then validated that with signing up and paying and all that sort of stuff. Let's go backwards a little bit, because if you don't have a network, and everybody's got some level of a network, but if you don't have a solid network that you've built and fostered over the years, that wouldn't have worked. So can you just touch on for me the caliber and the quality and how much time, energy, and effort you put into developing and nurturing your network, irregardless of what you're doing, right? So I would imagine some of your network knew you as Print Dave, and then Licensing Dave, and now sort of these entrepreneurial group-based Dave. But tell me about the importance of building those networks and the relationships.
Well, it's very important. I mean, I am Mr. Rochester, born and bred here, member of Chamber of Commerce and Rotary and Small Business Council, et cetera. And so I'm very involved. And so I think I've built my credibility up front, where people know that I'm a good guy. I have integrity. I'm sincere about helping people. I'm not some fly-by-night shyster. I'm here, and they know where I live. I mean, I live and work in this suburb outside of Rochester. And so I went to high school here. I went to college in Buffalo. So I'm rooted in this community. And I think that helped me hit the ground running. Now, if you are just starting out in the business world in your community, you're not really known yet, well, I think the first steps would be, to join these types of organizations, join your local city Rotary, join the Chamber of Commerce, get involved. They say networking, but I think it's more than networking, becoming a resource for people. You meet somebody, you exchange cards, like actually follow up, actually try to connect them with other people so that you're now viewed as somebody that, oh my God, this guy helps me. I like him. What can I do for him? And the compound effect of that is going to build.
And the difference today is that the geographic centricity isn't as critical, right? So you're born and bred there. That's amazing. People know you. You walk down the street. You go to, whatever, out to dinner or something with your family. You're going to recognize folks. That's awesome. Layer on top of that now social, and it's limitless. But I think you have to have that mindset of, it's not me. It's not shyster. What can I do in this LinkedIn group to add value? What can I do when I connect with someone on LinkedIn that's not just self-serving? But you have to have sort of an authenticity about you, which you can't fake, right? And a spirit of generosity and connecting and doing all those things. And even though you're not doing it for a return, right, there are dividends that pay. And I like your advice to someone just starting out there. So that's awesome. So give me sort of tie up. So we've got new opportunities coming off of these Avante groups, which is really cool. Let me go backwards a bit, or pause for a moment and say, David, out there right now is a young David Mammano, somebody 25 years old, and you've been around the block. I've been around the block. We get to earn our stripes and scars and all that. They want to be moving into the content space, into the thought leadership space, into some of the things that you've done and are doing. Give them some general advice.
So what I would say is find out what platform that you love, that you like doing anyway, and can you own it in your community? 1,000-mile journey begins at one step. So, there's a lot of people on Facebook that I think are trying to be the next Tony Robbins. And it's like, who are you? I don't know you. Tony started out of his house 30 years ago and built an empire step by step. And so my feeling is start in your community, start local, pick a platform that you like. Do you like to write? Great. Start a blog. Do you like video? Have a YouTube show. Do you want to write a book? Do you like speaking? A little combination thereof. A podcast. Look at you, Peter. I mean, do you want to do a podcast? Great content. So what can you offer your community in lines of great content? How can you help them objectively be better at who they are, bring them to the next level? I think that's how you get the ball rolling.
So, I mean, you touched on something there that was critical, is oftentimes people say, but I'm not a ... I'm not a good writer. I'm not a good this. I'm not a good that. I love the idea and the recommendation that you made to try it all out, right? Hey, if you love to write blogs, short form, long form, whatever, if that's not your cup of tea, video, there is no excuse now between the multiple modalities that are available at almost zero cost to everybody to find your lane and experiment and find one that works for you and one that you like. I mean, you've done many, right? You've done speaking, you've been an author, you teach, you coach, but you've probably done several others that you don't like, and therefore you don't do them anymore. So experimenting and not being afraid to try things and see what works and see what doesn't.
Yeah, and then see what's relevant. I don't do a printed magazine anymore because the market. It breaks my heart, but the market doesn't want it anymore. Yeah. And the market right now loves podcasts. And you and I, Peter, we have a great faces for podcasts, right? So
exactly. You don't adjust your dials at home. This is as good as it gets.
Exactly. But I love my podcast. I've been doing it every week for almost 2 years, and I've got 25,000 downloads now per week, and I'm in 78 countries, and I'm killing it because I love it. I love it. And and I know that you're getting started here, and I think what am I, number 25, 35, something like that. But you're already cranking, and that's just the consistency, though. Do you know that the average podcaster lasts 9 episodes and then they go away forever? So I think what's really important with content is the consistency. As I told you in the beginning, with Next Step, all of a sudden we had literally like thousands and thousands of articles on our site and just built up because we did it for years and years and years.
And the consistency piece is important because I remember when I started blogging years and years ago, a friend said to me similar thing. Don't stop until you hit 100. Don't even look at the numbers until you hit 100. And that's really, really hard to do because we live in this world of, I can tell you at any time in the day how many calories I took in and how many steps I took, but like write 100 blogs and not even, and hold your breath and pray. But that's sort of what you have to do. And being consistent and committed. I mean, there's nothing worse than when you go to either a blog or a podcast or something and see the last post was on, April 11th of 2013. Right?
Yeah, no, you lose. Yeah,
it's like, okay, I'm done here.
You move on. Cool. Yeah, you don't check their box and you move on. And some people do it even if they don't read it, just for credibility. Exactly. Oh, Peter, he did a blog yesterday. Okay, he's the real thing. He's got it going on. Let me, let me move on. He's got the credibility factor checked.
Well, this has been great. You've gone from print to digital to licensing to community development to speaking, peer groups. This has really been chock full of interesting information and right from the heart and battle scars and everything. Tell folks where they can find you. Where do I find you? Be I in Rochester, or maybe I'm somebody in Cleveland or Dubai that wants to open an Avante group, or what else might they want to find you for, and where do they get you?
Well, the best place to reach me is I'm pretty good with email. So david@davidmammano.com, Mammano. I also have a website, davidmammano.com. And we also have our main website, which is AvanteEntrepreneurGroup.com. So you can go there as well.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today. And hopefully folks will reach out to you. And this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on board today.
Thank you. Great job. I look forward to hearing your 100th episode.
To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.